Question. It's a long question, so I'm going to read parts of it. Hi there, Kim, and I apologize in advance for this long, perhaps meandering question. To start, I'm tired of these strange times. Oh, so tired. I know I'm not the only one that feels this way these days. This restlessness in the air that doesn't seem to go away. The world feels so chaotic, apathetic, and hostile, like things have gotten worse rather than better, to the point where I often yearn for the simplicity of my childhood and even for a time beyond that. I feel too much. I see the things that are wrong, but I alone can't fix it. It's a helpless feeling, frustrating. Before I was born, there seemed to be so many beacons of light and hope that society could look to. Good, honest people, and so many have either been killed by the powers that be or have died tragically prematurely. I suppose it's up to all of us to step up to the plate now, but it can be disheartening when everyone seems to just keep going along with a system that's just not working, like a train wreck in slow motion. And then I'm going to skip some. For as long as I can remember, I've always felt a wishful nostalgia for years I was never around to see. So how does one step beyond the yearning? How does one give up the desire to live in a better world, to offload that burden? My circle of support is so small, and I fear the inevitable day that I lose even that, the people I love most, to death. To this dark world we foolishly created. I don't know how I would go on in this world without the few people who understand me. I'm sorry this is so long. I never speak about this. I appreciate you, and any insights would ease my mind and heart. Okay, so obviously this is a general phenomenon in these years, especially after the corona crisis, where I can see that many people have shifted and become focused on the negatives. The masters have talked about this. I have a playlist called The Coming 12-Year Cycle. You can also find on my website, Ascended Master Light website, you can find the dictations that the masters gave right after New Year's in 2025, where they talked about more about this 12-year cycle. And they have said that what is happening is that the masters, starting here at New Year's, they release spiritual energies that will bring some upheaval because it's necessary to bring the changes more quickly that need to happen so we can manifest a golden age. And I see many people have reacted to that by shifting into this focus on the negative if they hadn't already. So what I would say is, first of all, you can make a conscious decision to focus on the positive. See, what's happening right now is that okay, well, let me just step back a little bit. I've explained that there are 4 levels of the material universe, 4 levels of our minds. So there's the identity level, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. And right now, in the physical and the mental especially, there is this collective energy matrix. I call it sometimes an entity or a beast that has been, it's been there for a long time. But it's become very active for the last few years, and it's constantly pulling on people's emotions and their thoughts to get them to focus on the negative and go into these negative feelings like the person is describing very well. And I understand that many people have these feelings. I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm just saying you can come to a point where you realize there is this pull on you, and you can decide, I'm not going to give in. And if you really have trouble doing this, you can use the teachings and tools to deal with these subconscious selves, because it's subconscious selves that give this collective force something to pull on. It's like Jesus said, Prince of this world comes and has nothing in me. So if you're feeling this pull, the Prince of this world, collective consciousness, the negatives, they have something to pull on. So if you remove that, it'll be easier for you. But you still need to make a conscious decision not to focus on the negatives. And once you have made that decision, you won't feel the pull as much. Now, there's what the person is saying here, a couple of things. Longing back for childhood, or longing back for a time in the past. I've always felt a wistful nostalgia for years I was never around to see. Thinking that there were so many people that were changing the world, But you see, if you ask yourself a simple question here, you may say it was better 30 years ago. But did the people who lived at the time feel that way? Or did they perhaps feel, like you're feeling, that the world was chaotic at the time? And I think there are many times in the past where you will see that people felt the world was chaotic and the changes were happening so fast, it's called future shock, that they couldn't keep up with it. So, there's actually a movie, it's called Midnight in Paris. And the idea is that there's a person who, we don't need to explain why, goes into the past, goes back to the 1920s and experiences all these artists like Hemingway and Impressionist painters and Dali. And it's like he's there with these people. And he meets a woman there, and she's living in the 1920s, which he saw as the golden age for artists. But she's longing back to the Belle Epoque, which was in the 1800s. So even though she's living in the time that he thought was the greatest time in the past, she's longing for a time even further back. So, for me, when I see something like this, it helps me snap out of this and thinking that things were better in the past. I also grew up with a father who always longed back to his childhood. It was like his childhood was the Garden of Eden, and it had been downhill ever since. And I just refuse to go into that state of mind, because I think that every time, every epoch has its challenges and its hopes. But most of the people who live in a certain time, they don't see the hopes, they are focused on the negatives. So we just have to make a decision to focus on the positives in this time we're living in. I mean, I see that there's turbulence. As I've said before, the coronavirus pandemic didn't really affect me that much, but when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was like that shattered my hope that we could transition into the golden age without any major war. And as I also said, I thought it would spell disaster for Russia and the Russian people. But so when I dealt with that, I realized something very simple. The planet is right here, right now. It's right here. The golden age is up there. How do we cross that distance? Well, if we, as I was hoping, go gradually, it might take 100 years. But if we speed things up, it might take a lot less. But the thing is, if we speed things up, the price we pay is things will seem more chaotic. It will seem like a train wreck, not even in slow motion, but in fast forward. And it will seem like the train is just barreling down the tracks, it's out of control. But it isn't. It isn't out of control. I sense that behind all the chaos is just on the surface, but there's a deeper, it's kind of like you take the ocean, right? So you can go, there's a storm in the Atlantic Ocean, and there are big waves on the surface, right? But once you go down to a certain depth, the ocean is calm. And underneath the waves, there is still the ocean current that's moving. And so the choice you have is, what do you tie into? What do you focus your attention upon? Do you focus it on the turbulent waves on the surface? Or do you go deeper and focus on the ocean current that is bringing the world forward towards Saint Germain's golden age? And so the choice you have is, will you allow this turbulence in the world, in the collective consciousness, to pull you into focusing on the negatives? Because I tell you, you have to be pulled into focusing on the negatives. It's not something that just naturally happens. It happens because you have certain subconscious selves that may have been created in past lifetimes if you've experienced these traumatic events. I'm not making light of that at all. But I'm just saying, this is what pulls you, because the core of your being, as I explained, is the conscious you, which is neutral awareness. And your conscious you naturally focuses on the positives, on the deeper currents, on the long-term perspective, the big picture. It's only the subconscious selves that are focused on localized a part of the big picture and can't see the forest for the trees because it's so focused on the trees. So it's unnatural to be focused on the negatives. It's natural to be focused on the positives or the big picture. But the big picture is that the planet is moving forward towards Saint Germain's golden age. So this is a choice. It really is a choice. I can't make it for you. I have no ambition of making it for you. I'm just saying I have for myself made the choice to focus on the positives. So I would recommend look at these teachings about the 12-year cycle that the Masters released at New Year's and see what it does for you to study those dictations, and then use the tools to discover these subconscious selves. Many of us, as I have said many times, have been exposed to severe trauma in the past lifetimes. And so we have these subconscious selves we're carrying with you. But everything that happens to us is an opportunity to look at our reactionary patterns. So why are you reacting the way you're reacting to the current situation? And then use that to discover those patterns. And once you get over them, once you resolve those selves, you won't have the pull. You will naturally return to seeing the deeper ocean current, and then you can flow with that current instead of being tossed and turned by the waves.